Thank you, Gene. One of the most frustrating things for me with the government is we have to grade it on this awful curve. What we expect in the corporate world is efficiency and things to be done immediately. And unfortunately, this bill is the only one that really has come up to say end the war. So based on all the ones that are there, yeah, I support it because he is actually stepping up and saying end the war. The main thing that really frustrates me with this is, why is a congressman ending the war? Where's our generals? Where's our staff? Where's our military? Why is the Indiana National Guard in Afghanistan right now building bases? As far as I'm concerned, you put a base in a place like Afghanistan, that's a terrorist recruiting tool. Nothing says the invasion has begun like a permanent base. So I'm all for it based on the fact it's the best they apparently can do right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I read the bill. It was an odd thing. And it's not what it sounded like, because I've met Alan Grayson also, and he's entertaining. But so am I a little bit, but that's all right. If you haven't read this bill, it's very interesting, and it's got a lot of bipartisan support. It says the $549 billion in the defense budget, okay, you can keep that, but the $159 you want on top of it for emergency spending, this bill takes that $159 billion, puts about $15 billion against the deficit, and takes the balance and gives every individual that makes less than $35,000 a year, or every couple at $70,000 a year, and lets them not have any income taxes for that year. And I think the point that Congressman Grayson's trying to make is how much the military really is spending and how much it would impact you if they didn't. And I think from that basis, it's a very good bill. If you told everybody, every couple that made $70,000 a year or less, that they wouldn't have to pay their taxes for a year if you just took the emergency funding off of the top of the $500 billion bill, I think that's a good idea. So I would vote for that. Thank you.
We'll change topics just a little bit. Probably most of the people in this room, I would assume, most people that would come to a forum like this would be reasonably politically informed. But we know that the Supreme Court made a decision treating corporations as persons, so that corporations have the same free speech rights as you and I, and the ability to contribute to political campaigns, etc. So if we could talk about that, and this time I guess we'll just start with Rick and go
They also
down this
report
way.
that they make money for as same speech.
That's true.
The more money you got, the more free speech you got.
The comment is that money is the same as speech.
Right.
Thank you, Gene. The corporate control is really one of the biggest issues, if not the single biggest issue we have worldwide. They control the politics, they control the media, they control everything we see. The fact that they're considered a person is an issue because they've developed into these massive, massive trusts that are much like what we had in the early 1900s. And essentially, by the time we see a newscast, we're not seeing news anymore. If you look at what we see, we don't get facts, we don't get the truth, we get what they want us to know. You have to look no further than the oil spill for that. Last fall, everybody can remember they were here, safe drilling, it's safe, what could possibly happen. Most of you probably don't know, in Australia last year, 2009, there was a blowout identical to this that bled for several months, did the same thing, while they were here telling Florida, what do you got to worry about? There's nothing there. There's been 858 fires and explosions in the Gulf since 2001. Most people don't know that. So the bottom line is the corporations need reeled in, and that's one of the first issues. Thank you.
The Citizens United versus the FEC is a horrible decision. Corporations are not people. Now, what do we do about it now that they've ruled this way? How do you go about legislating what they say you can't legislate? We can do it through proper disclosure. I guarantee you there are certain corporations that don't want their names attached with the spending they do politically. The other way we do it is through an act called the Fair Elections Now Act. Basically what this is going to do is public financing of campaigns. You have to show through small donations, and I'll just give you a real quick for instance. This quarter we've had 9, I think when I left the house, because when you're a candidate you check this way too much. We've had 491 contributors this quarter. The average contribution was just about $19. So the Fair Elections Now Act says that if you can raise that kind of money through small contributions in your district, then you're going to be eligible for matching funds, and that others will be restricted from spending on that campaign. Once again, Mr. Grayson has introduced several bills that would help reel this in. He does it in a very clever manner. I really do admire the way that he's learned the system so quickly, because as James showed you, the 5353 is not a 1,000-page act. I mean, I think it's about 2 or 3 pages. Right? Am I right? Yeah. I mean, it's he doesn't go on and on. He says, Republicans want you not to get sick, and if you do, die quick. Yeah, so everybody gets his point very quickly. You overturn Citizens United by openness and transparency.
Thank you very much. I am an attorney. Worked with Mr. Blues on many issues up in Manatee County. As an attorney, the Constitution is not something to be tampered with, just helter-skelter. This decision, as a constitutional decision, simply seeks to compare apples and oranges. If you go into the history of constitutional law, corporations were created to stand in the place of people, not become people. The desire was to insulate people from liability that they might not otherwise be able to absorb except for an alter ego. This Supreme Court, by its makeup, determined that they're going to do what they have done, and that is to make it so that we can treat corporations like people. Well, fine. If you want to do that, then let's go whole hog. If I don't have any money, I can't contribute anything to anybody. And so I suspect that what we need to see in the legislation that could be forthcoming is that you can't take advantage of this particular aspect of being a person unless you have a positive cash flow. Liquid cash flow. Now, you don't get a chance to contribute because you've got billions and billions and billions of dollars of assets and billions and billions and billions of dollars of depreciation. You only get to contribute if you have the liquidity that shows that you can support your contribution. Most of the corporations in America today don't have that kind of liquidity. Problem solved. Thank you.